Just to set the stage, I would like both of you to tell a bit more about what you do in relation to cybersecurity. Maybe Spencer, we'll start with you. Tell us a bit more about your fund and investments you've made in cybersecurity companies, the types of them, and over the years.
Oh, there we go. We raised our first fund in 1996 under the moniker of AllegisCyber. We're currently investing out of our 9th pool, about a $300 million venture fund. It's focused on cyber. We changed our name with our last fund to AllegisCyber. So we're focused primarily in cybersecurity, as it says, but that's a pretty broad marketplace.
All right, Yury, what does Cybersecurity Research Center at Alibaba does, and what's your role as a cybersecurity researcher?
Oh, we have chair for you.
All right, chair.
So, Security Innovation Labs of Alibaba Cloud was formed a year ago when I joined Alibaba. And we are focusing on building intelligent machines that process information and detect malicious activity and try to make the cloud and our customers and our e-commerce platform on top of the cloud safer. And the focus is on building automated pipelines that take the human out of the detection to remediation pipeline.
Yury, tell us, how did you end up in that role? What's the story? You started about a year ago. What's the path before that?
The road was long. Until I went to Alibaba, I was with Akamai, and Akamai acquired a startup where I was with. And my team, the startup is called Nominum. For anybody who doesn't know, it's the company that was founded in '99 by DNS pioneers. And my team back at Nominum transformed the infrastructure play into the data-driven, AI-powered cybersecurity company that was acquired by Akamai. And within a year, I left and joined Alibaba Cloud, inspired by the passion of the executives of Alibaba Cloud about building the best security defenses for us and for our customers.
So just to stay on this topic a little bit longer, after many years in Silicon Valley, you are now exposed to what's happening in Asia. What do you see there? Is that in any way different than what we see here?
Yeah, there are some differences. What is fascinating is that China is mobile-first society right now, technologically, and people do all kinds of things now with their mobile phones, from shopping to ordering in a restaurant to chatting to playing games. And that created the ecosystem that is quite different from what we see here. And just to illustrate the adoption of the technological advances in China, I have this personal story that in one of the visits to Hangzhou, I went hiking, and near the parking lot at the mountain, there were people selling some vegetables and fruits from their own gardens. And the interesting thing that I noticed is everybody took payments via mobile phones using just the printouts, QR code printouts, and including the elderly people, which is notoriously hard to convert to use new types of technology in the Western world. So that was quite a shocking experience. And I think technologically we can build a lot of things here, but creating the adoption that wide across all age groups, that's something that I've never seen anywhere but in China.
Let's maybe talk a little bit about that and how the whole landscape got transformed. A lot of what you see and what you mentioned is really driven by what's been happening over the last 10 years with the cloud adoption. Cloud is essentially becomes the infrastructure of how both humans and companies interact in the digital world. How did that transform the cybersecurity landscape, if it did? Maybe Spencer, I'll pass the baton to you on that.
Well, we started thinking about the cloud in 2005, and it took about 10 years before it became, a real thing. And so the way we imagined it in 2005 is not how it turned out. We had this vision that everybody would be on the cloud, everybody would migrate to the cloud, and we keep talking about migration to the cloud. We don't really see that in large enterprises. We see lots of use in the cloud, but almost everything that my companies sell go into hybrid environments, and large companies are still keeping a lot of stuff on-prem. And so the way we look at security now is you have to have an on-prem solution as well as a cloud solution. And what that's done is just increase the surface area for security vulnerability. And I think ultimately, architecturally, it's going to push the security level down all the way to the app and even to the services level if you're going to truly secure the cloud. It won't be the cloud itself because you've got to be reliant upon the service providers to do that, and ultimately that's going to push all the way out to the applications and the services themselves.
Yury, what's your view on sort of cloud security or cloud as the landscape for security tools versus private data centers, or even what Spencer is saying, kind of lower towards application layer?
Well, I agree about the application layer, but this is the security going to the application layer is a result of is going to be a result of the good work of at the cloud level. So the cloud is moving toward the sort of platform capabilities where a lot of security features will be built in and can be enabled with just a checkbox. For example, DDoS protection and WAF protection, web firewall, is just easier to do it at the cloud level versus hiring an independent company to provide these services. And I think this also creates a lot of opportunities for other companies to find niche solutions on the application layer that will be targeted at certain groups of customers, while the cloud is taking care of general security problem.
I would say that it's probably a fair statement that all of us believe that maybe we're on the cusp of another potential transformation with IoT and the number of connected devices growing suddenly exponentially, especially in combination with 5G networks that are highly anticipated. How would that change things further, in your opinion?
It's going to get worse. IoT devices, the design of IoT devices was primarily driven by cost because you need to produce millions of these devices, and because of that, the security was not a part of the design process. And what we see millions and hundreds of millions of the devices that are easy to penetrate and convert into the large botnets that then attack our cloud and our customers in the cloud. And these devices cannot be, they are not updated regularly or sometimes not at all. And the industry as a whole has not, security industry as a whole, has not found a solution yet, a silver bullet for the IoT devices to become secure. And 5G is also kind of interconnected to this because we will see a lot more IoT devices connected directly to the internet using 5G. So from a cybersecurity point of view, I see more problems, but more opportunities as well.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I think that the challenge we have is that there's an opposition between what we would consider DevOps and security ops, right? And so all of the stuff that Yury's been talking about, IoT, et cetera, these are business-driven decisions, business-driven developments. And so, unfortunately, when they begin, they don't start with security as a main focus. They start with an end business purpose as their focus. And so on the security side, we're always playing catch-up. And that's why I think there will always be an opportunity for security, and I think that that's why the threat landscape continues to expand. And so if you look at security operations, like what Yury does inside of Alibaba, their job is to have zero problems. Their goal is to have zero problems, and that's diametrically opposed to DevOps, where their job is to make as much money as possible. And so companies are always having to make a trade-off in terms of how much risk they're willing to absorb in order to do as much business as possible. And with IoT, that's pushed all the way down to the individual. Think about yourself. Think about all the applications on your phone. They're binary, right? It's an if-then. If I want to use Fandango, I have to tell them where I am. I have to give them my credit card information, et cetera. There's no, I'll give you part of my information and not all of it. And this is happening across the board in our phone apps. And so IoT just increases the problems, and there's an education issue that always goes all the way down to the individual's level, because the individuals think in terms of privacy and not security, because there's a big difference between them, right? If I look at what my kids are willing to give up online and what I'm willing to give up is completely different. They don't see that as an issue, but security is a different issue, and we have to actually educate all the way down to the consumer level with IoT in order to be secure, and obviously move it to the app layer that we talked about earlier.
A lot of entrepreneurs here, a lot of people that are building startups, and Spencer, you talked about opportunity set also expanding along with the security landscape. Let's talk about opportunities for entrepreneurs and startups to address the pains that maybe big corporations are not that good at addressing themselves. Something that startups can maybe deliver on, and free to talk about whether it's from a technology standpoint or from adoption of new things that are a little harder for the big corporations to look at or adopt, or whatever else that might be an opening for a startup entrepreneur to enter this market.
Well, if I look at large companies that provide security software, everybody's trying to stackify and platformatize everything, right? And the end customers, they're looking to have as few vendors as possible. And so within that construct, there's always a hole. And that's where a lot of startups come from. And so a lot of our deal flow that we end up funding comes from frustrated product people inside of larger organizations. They either see a problem that's on the cusp of occurring, or one that currently exists that their platform can't address, and either political headwinds, budget headwinds, or something else keeps them from being able to develop that internally, so they spin out and do a company. And the best combination for us is when one of our former CEOs or high-level executives ties up with that frustrated product person, and those make very, very good startup opportunities.
Yury?
The cloud, and we in particular, are building a platform for other companies to be on, but also it creates an opportunity, because we cannot serve unique needs for every vertical in every country with unique requirements and local regulations for each vertical. So there is an opportunity for companies to take advantage of the platform capabilities, but create the service or a product that serves a unique niche of customers that they know well, they know the particular requirements, and probably at the application level. So security is something that we cannot build one size fits all on the application layer. So this is, I think, with the transition to the cloud, also a lot of opportunities to help companies migrate from private data centers to the cloud, and from maybe hybrid architectures to the cloud as well. I like what I heard earlier today about serverless architecture, and so you need to first see where things are going, and public cloud space is actively going through Kubernetes, through containerization to the serverless, and many companies are still in the pre-Kubernetes era. So now the question is what to do, to go to containers, to go to all the way to serverless, and there is a lot of opportunities for startups to help companies do that.
Cybersecurity and startups, and investing in startups and cybersecurity is sort of an evergreen theme. As the space evolves, there's always something new to consider, to come up and use as a solution. There's a new technology that comes up that can be applied in security applications. Right now, we see a lot of startups trying to use AI in an application, trying to apply it to security problems. What are your thoughts on the use of AI, machine learning, as maybe there's something new coming that will be the next technology that people will try to adopt?
Almost every company in our portfolio uses some level of machine learning and AI in their product development. I don't invest in AI as an area or in machine learning as an area. We invest in companies that use that product. I think of machine learning and even AI somewhat like, for those old timers here, when EDA tools came out for semiconductor design, it revolutionized the industry, didn't it? Right? And all it did was take all the really difficult stuff and automate that. And then it left the key design stuff, the key creative stuff to individuals. And I think that AI and machine learning does that. I don't believe in total automation, and I may be disagreeing with Yury here a bit on that, but I don't believe we can get to a completely automated system. And the reason is, even if we automate the entire thing and you take people's decision-making out of it, now you're starting to touch the business side. And business people don't like that. They don't like black and white. They like to be able to make business decisions in terms of their risk assessment. And so I think that's what AI and machine learning does for us, is it gets a lot of that data out of the way so we can make cogent and smart decisions as business people.
In security, AI received a bit of a negative connotation because the initial attempts to use AI by multiple companies in cybersecurity led to the output that has a lot of false positives or requires a lot more manual labor than the original goal of helping the humans to solve the problem. And in order to create a machine learning algorithm in cybersecurity, and that's what we are doing, and that's what I've done before, is to make sure that the intelligent machines that are working in cybersecurity can make decisions with a false positive rate that is as good or hopefully a lot better than that of a human. Only then you can take the human out of this chain and make the human validate the workflow, see the reporting, fine-tune the algorithms. So this is very important for the cybersecurity to use the AI and machine learning correctly. And I also want to distinguish a little bit between machine learning and AI, specifically in cybersecurity. So what I understand by AI in cybersecurity, it's machine learning with some explanatory power, with reasoning. So that's where I see AI is a valid term. Otherwise, it's more of a marketing trick.
Exactly.
Thank you. And maybe just to wrap up, I want to ask you about. I want to ask you to make a prediction. I want you to kind of try to look 20 years from now. What will we look at in terms of cybersecurity? What's the end game? Or maybe end game is not the right word. I don't think it will ever end. But what will be the game in cybersecurity 20 years from now?
I think what makes it different, the cybersecurity from many other fields, it's continuously changing. It's the only constant in this field is the change. And so that's one thing. We will never run out of problems to solve because the bad actors continue to innovate. So we have to do the same. And also the interaction between the machines and humans, as long as it continues, there will be problems that arise from social interaction between machines and humans. So the problem of cybersecurity, even in 20 years, it will change, but it will not disappear.
Spencer, where is the puck going?
I think it's going to be just as bad as it is now, but I'm not smart enough to tell you what it's going to look like. When I was a youth, there was this book out there called 1984, George Orwell, correct? And Big Brother was supposed to be the government. And when the Big Brother thing really played out, we Big Brothered ourselves, didn't we? Big Brother are tech companies. They have all of our data, and it's not really the government at all. And we did it ourselves willingly. We made a trade-off, for that. So I don't know what cybersecurity is going to look like in terms of a landscape 20 years from now, but I know it's going to continue to be at least as big a problem as it is today. We are not winning this war. That's one of the reasons that cyber budgets continue to grow. And it's a war we can't win because the only way to completely secure your enterprise is to have no employees and do no commerce. Because if you're going to do commerce and you're going to have employees, you are going to have problems. You cannot control the entire partnership landscape and your supply chain. You can't force them into you can force them to a certain security level, but you cannot completely secure them. Some of the biggest breaches in history have come through partnerships. And individuals cut corners. That's who we are. It's human nature. And by the way, we've seen, and Yury deals with this all the time. You put in a new security protocol, and everybody has to toe a certain line, and there's a limit to what people are willing to do. And so there will always be problems. I just don't know what they will be.
Thank you. Spencer, Yury, thank you for sharing your insights.